What's up guys, Matthew Monis here, and it's been about 45 days since the Galaxy S8 was released. Now, I wanted to take my time on this one because this is a very important phone and probably the most popular phone right now for Android users. I've been rocking this phone on the TELUS network, which was recently announced to be the largest and fastest network here in Canada. So TELUS, congratulations on this new milestone. Now, I'm not going to go into every single little detail since I'm sure a lot of you have already seen tons of reviews already, but I will talk about some of the things I like, what I don't like, and whether or not you should buy this phone. So let's start off with what I like about the Galaxy S8. And the first thing that comes to my mind is the display. Samsung continues to make the best smartphone displays on the market. And the same holds true for the Galaxy S8. Now, you're not gonna find a huge difference in terms of color accuracy compared to the Galaxy S7, but one thing I did notice right away is how much brighter the Galaxy S8 is. So if you're someone who's outdoors a lot, you're gonna be able to see this screen no matter what. Now, here's the thing, when you get this phone straight out of the box, it's set to 1080p or full HD. My suggestion is to go into your display settings and change to QHD because you're gonna get a much better viewing experience. Like, the text is just gonna look sharper. Samsung has also decided to ditch its traditional aspect ratio and go with one that's 18:9. The reason why Samsung did this is so that they can extend the screen and therefore reduce the size of the bezels. So what you're gonna get is a much taller or much more narrow device. Now, there are benefits to this. For one, if you're holding a Galaxy S8, it's gonna feel a lot smaller in your hand. But if you hold the S8 Plus, even though it feels pretty narrow in your hand, it's really, really tall. So extending your thumb to the top of the screen is quite difficult. In fact, I actually switched from the S8 Plus down to the S8 because of this. And just like the Galaxy S7, the Galaxy S8 is IP68 certified, so it's water resistant up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. In fact, I went on this crazy cottage trip with a bunch of other awesome YouTubers, and we were doing tons of things like going in the water, get dunked, and never once had an issue with its water resistance. I also noticed something else. If you remember, last year's Galaxy S7 didn't have the best mono speaker. In fact, it was very tinny, and it would also sound very muted due to the water coating that was on top of it. But this year Samsung did something different. There's still a mono speaker, but it sounds a little bit better. Now, obviously, I think Samsung should have utilized the earpiece as a second speaker. It's not going to be as good as two front-facing speakers, but it's definitely a lot better than only having one. One of my major concerns with the majority of Samsung smartphones that I've tested in previous years is always the dreaded Samsung lag. It's been an issue. I don't care what anybody says. You use the phone for a few months and it just starts to bog down. This year it seems a little bit different. I know it's only been 45 days, but it still feels just as fluid as the day I got it. Now, obviously time will tell, and I promise to revisit this device 6 to 8 months later. I do think the Snapdragon 835, the 4 gigabytes of RAM, and Samsung's ability to further fine-tune the software all contribute to a better experience. Speaking of software, the overall TouchWiz or Samsung experience, whatever you want to call their new UI, is much better. It's more improved. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. I still personally prefer stock Android, but it's definitely better than previous years. Also, if you're Canadian and you buy it from a Canadian carrier like TELUS, you're not going to have all that bloatware like they do down south in the United States. Now, unfortunately, there's still a lot of duplicative apps. Like, you have tons of Samsung's own applications, like a second calendar, a second browser, and that can be very, very confusing for a new user who just wants to start using their phone and they see one Gmail app and one Samsung email app. I think they just need to get rid of them and let people choose for themselves. And the last thing that I really like about this phone is the camera. I wouldn't say it's the best out there, but it's definitely top 5. In fact, it's probably only slightly better than the Galaxy S7, and that's totally fine. The Galaxy S7 took some fantastic photos. I'm not going to spend too much time on the camera because I've done, or my wife has done, a camera comparison between this phone, the LG G6, and the Pixel, which I'll place a link to in the description down below. Now let's talk about some of the things that I don't like about this phone. And the first thing has to do with the design, and it comes down to typing. We're still using an Edge display. It looks great, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. but typing on it is not nearly as comfortable as a flat screen. I have to commend Samsung though. The Edge screen this year is much better than the Galaxy S7 Edge and way better than the S6 Edge, but I still wish there was a flat version that I can use instead of this one. The second thing I don't like about the design is the fingerprint scanner placement. I know this has been beaten to death, but I have to mention it as well. It's really awkward to place your finger there. Not only do you smudge your camera, it just doesn't make sense. They should have placed it just below the camera or kept it on front of the phone or find some way to bake it into the screen. Which brings me back to the S8 Plus. With the S8 Plus, you're gonna get significantly better battery life than you are with the S8. I was able to go a day and a half without charging, whereas the Galaxy S8 has some of the worst battery life that I've tested on a flagship phone this year. I am just making it to the end of the day, and I find myself having to recharge around 4 or 5 o'clock. It's great that Samsung includes fast wireless charging and fast charging, but at the end of the day, I don't want to have to worry about doing those things, and I don't have to worry about carrying a battery charger with me wherever I go. So that pretty much wraps up my review of the Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. It's a fantastic, beautiful device. In fact, I think it's the most beautiful device that's currently on the market today. Sure, it's not perfect. There are some design quirks, and if design or functionality or practicality is more important to you, I think you might be better off with something like the LG G6. But if you want the most beautiful phone on the market right now, this is the one to get. Also, if you've stuck around this long, I'm giving a Samsung Galaxy S8 away. Contest will start today as of this video and will run for 2 weeks, where I will then pick a winner. If you want to enter, all you got to do is click on the link in the description down below, follow the instructions, and I wish you all the best of luck. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video.